Hey folks, I'm Jack Fossett, and welcome to this demo and review of this Gibson SG 61 Standard Sideways Vibrola. Now this is very much like the Gibson SG that most of you know and love. It's the 61 style based on when the SG first came out and was called the Les Paul, which is why it has Les Paul up on the truss rod cover. The quick story of that is that Les Pauls weren't selling very well. They decided to change the design. Les Paul himself was going through a divorce with Mary Ford, and through a combination of contract issues and the fact that he wasn't particularly fond of the new design, it later got changed to the Gibson SG. That's the very, very quick version. There's more to the story than that, but that's the quick version. So it started out as the Gibson Les Paul, didn't stay the Les Paul for very long before they changed it to SG, which stands for solid guitar. And this would have been similar to what an original one would have looked like. There were a few different models, but the original SGs had this half pickguard. If you see an SG with a half pickguard, that's an earlier style. Later on in the 1960s, they'd switch to the bigger batwing pickguard, which you see on some of the SGs. The early ones had this half-style pickguard, and there were some that had various vibratos, vibrolas. This is the Sideways Vibrola. There was also one with the Maestro trim, and you saw that on different models across the board. The SG Custom, you see SG Customs that have both the Maestro and the Sideways Vibrola. So there were multiple iterations, and then of course you had the hardtail versions. This one is in the classic cherry red finish. It's all mahogany. It has a 60s slim taper neck. Really, really comfortable guitar. Has all the kind of bite and snap and growl of an SG that you'd want. It's a little brighter than you'd expect. Being a mahogany guitar, I don't always think of SGs as the brightest guitars. This one has a nice brightness to it. As far as the Vibrola goes, let me be brutally honest when I say, if you get most Gibsons that have a vibrato of some kind, you're really getting it more for the looks. They're just not particularly functional. Now, this one, I'm not really crazy about the sweep on it, and the tuning stability just becomes a nightmare. Now, that could benefit from a new nut, it could benefit from some kind of a new bridge, but they really weren't. Whether it's the Maestro or the Sideways, you certainly see Gibsons that have Bigsbys on them and everything. Gibsons were just not designed for heavy use vibrato. Now, it certainly changes the tone if you were to play this back to back with an SG that didn't have this. This is a big honking piece of metal, and it changes the way that the strings are anchored, so, there would be a little bit of a difference in the tone. I just think it looks cool. I mean, let's be honest, how many of you are interested in an SG that has either a Maestro or a Sideways Vibrola for dive bombs? Probably not, right? If you're going to do really heavy tremolo playing, either in like a Jeff Beck style or, a harder rock like a Van Halen sort of thing with dive bombs and stuff, you're probably going to want to get something in the Floyd Rose realm that has more locking things and just much more tuning stability. These are just not designed for that. But they look cool, and they have a lot of cool vintage mojo. So that's kind of where I'm at with the Sideways Vibrola. Now, you've just heard it on the neck pickup for this demo. As you can hear what I'm doing as I do in my guitar demos, I'm going to play some clean and some overdriven on each pickup. I'm playing into a Marshall Bluesbreaker JTM45 combo. It's loaded with dual Eminence Alnico speakers. I'm using a one-control Prussian blue reverb for some air, and for the overdriven tones, I'm using a Fulltone Plimsoul. Let me know, what do you think of these? Like, would you buy an SG with a Vibrola versus one with a non-Vibrola? Kind of just for the look and the sort of vintage mojo of it? Would you get it to actually use it? And has anyone had a different experience than me? I have multiple. I also have an SG Custom that has a Maestro, and I never use the trem on that for the same reason. It doesn't really hold its tune very well, and it's not really designed for heavy vibrato style playing. So, but I am curious if there's anybody out there who has an SG with a vibrato system. Do you use it a lot, and does it hold tune? Have you done things like change the nut? Please let us know in the comments. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. I'm Jack Fossett, and we'll see you next time.